Hello YouTube, hello world, Mr. Benyon here once again to bring you more information. Drama skills with Mr. B. Subscribe to the channel. I'm going to talk again today. This is part of a series of videos all about Bertolt Brecht and specifically, getting a bit more specific now, the Three Penny Opera. So the Three Penny Opera is a set text that we all study as A-level students here in the college, and I am trying to put some resources up that you guys can access at home. We did have a brief discussion in the last video regarding some Bertolt Brecht techniques, the kind of things that you want to be looking for within a Brechtian kind of performance or production. We're going to get a bit more specific now. We're going to talk about some of the opening moments of the Three Penny Opera. So the Three Penny Opera was one of Brecht's plays that he wrote kind of when it wasn't like the very first play that he wrote, it was kind of in the middle of his career. It was when he was in full flow with his ideas to do with epic theatre, and it contains many attributes and many kind of conventions that we now say are typically kind of Brechtian. It has a lot of musical elements within it. It will often have songs to either break up the action within specific scenes, or it will have songs at the end of a scene that will again kind of cause this kind of episodic nature, this almost like a sense of montage to the play, which is what Brecht was looking for. He didn't want some big, long, sort of, what's the word, epic kind of play in the sense that it just went on for hours and hours. He wanted a play that was episodic, so it was made of lots of tiny kind of little chunks, and it was peppered and kind of punctuated, if you like, by songs and sort of dances and big kind of musical numbers. The songs in themselves can probably be described as jazzily discordant, and he used sort of jazz, specifically jazz, and sort of a few other varying kind of styles of music within the Three Penny Opera, because it was quite a well-known kind of genre of music to sort of use at that time. He definitely kind of twisted it a little bit, and he used the kind of jazzy discordant kind of melodies in counterpoint, if you like, to the strong kind of political and social messages that he was trying to put across in the songs. The play actually starts with the song The Ballad of Mac the Knife, and this is used and served up as a kind of piece of narrative almost to help introduce Mac the Knife as the main character of the play, the main protagonist. He's described within The Ballad of Mac the Knife as being a kind of rapist, a murderer, a thief, and all of these kind of terrible bad things, like an arsonist as well. And he is usually on stage singing this song in the very opening parts of the play. So our very first introduction to Mac the Knife as a character is that he is not a nice person. He falls very nicely into the category of an anti-hero, which is something that I covered in the last YouTube video. The action then moves very quickly into the very first scene, which is set in Jeremiah Peachum's outfitting shop for beggars. Now, Jeremiah Peachum, again, a very important kind of character within the play. He starts off the entire action of the play by actually talking directly to the audience. Again, mentioned in the last YouTube video, this idea of breaking the fourth wall, narrating towards the audience to give them lots of information, presenting ideas is a typically very Brechtian convention. So Peachum starts by talking about, Peachum is often sort of used in the play to be representative of this kind of like idea of corrupt religion. So Peachum often will use very biblical kind of language in many of the speeches. He mentions about he's a Christian, and he sort of, he's got lots of signs up in his shop that say things like give and thou shalt be given to you, and all these other kind of great you know what I mean, very great slogans rather that come from the Bible. However, it's not very long into his speech that we realise that actually he's not a particularly kind of Christian character. So like many of the characters within a Three Penny Opera, he's presented as being very contradictory. So he sort of presents himself on one level as being this kind of lovely charitable kind of character. In fact, it becomes very clear very quickly that he is in it for money. He's running a business, and he is outfitting the beggars of London almost like a like a kind of military operation. So he's running it almost, I guess, like a gang lord, and I've seen a couple of productions where he is cast and acts very much like a big kind of crime boss lord, the crime lord of London, if you like. He is presented as being very capitalistly minded character, so he is interested a lot in money, as all the characters are. They're all kind of quite obsessed by money within the play. And he also, in his very opening speech that he delivers out to the audience, he introduces one of the main themes of the play, which is the deadening of human emotion, and he does this by using an example. I'm not quoting directly from the play here, this is kind of my paraphrasing of it, but if you read just literally the first kind of 2-3 pages of the play, you'll see exactly what I mean. He says something like, the first time you see a man begging on the street, you might feel inclined to give him £5. And then the second time you see him, if you see him the next day, you may be inclined to just give him, a couple of pounds. The third time you see him, you will have become quite immune to his misery, and by then you're quite likely to just phone the police and get him carted off to the police station because it becomes quite annoying to you. And here he is kind of demonstrating this very interesting kind of, like a philosophical point perhaps, but definitely like quite an astute point about human nature. We do very quickly get used to the sight of human suffering, and I think that is a very true kind of concept that we've carried on into modern day. If you think about the first time you see an advert for the starving children in some sort of war-torn place in the world, you will often feel a lot of sympathy for those children, and you may even ring up the number that flashes up on the screen to give them lots of money. If you see them all the time, which we do in today's society, you see a lot of sort of these quite shocking videos for charities, we become a bit immune to it. So what Brecht was saying is that through sort of constant exposure to misery, we become quite immune to it, and we just kind of act like it's not there, like it's not happening. And I think maybe that was reflective of the kind of misery, the human misery that Brecht was seeing that time in Germany, the kind of poverty, the war-torn, messed up kind of economical situation that Germany found itself in at that point, was something that he kind of tried to reflect a little bit in the Threepenny Opera. So this idea of deadening of human emotions is incredibly important. It's something that applies to many of the characters within the Threepenny Opera. I can't actually now think of a character that it doesn't really apply to. And Jeremiah Peachum is presented in the very first instance within this play as a kind of direct narrator, somebody who is kind of pushing along the action and giving us lots of information, but also somebody who embodies and personifies perhaps some of Brecht's own opinions regarding society and that kind of thing. So that is Jeremiah Peachum, a very contradictory character. He uses a lot of biblical language, and you can get a lot of biblical kind of elements into a characterization if you were playing Peachum within a performance, but he is also a very contradictory character in the sense that he is solely selfish. He just cares about money. He thinks about people as being kind of objects that can make him money. He's incredibly materialistic in that sense, and he's not particularly kind of nice guy. He comes across as quite cruel, and he's only really out for himself. So there you go, Jeremiah Peachum. More videos to follow. Please keep updated by checking up on the YouTube channel. See you next time. Bye.